Don't be sorry. Come here and say hey at least. Say hey to the camera. Hey guys, it's Ariana.
Hi!
She was from my last video.
Yeah, I'm pretty popular.
Yeah. She got blonder. How was it
Jack, for that type of
so they can really get.
It was one of the things that, like, for Young Frankenstein, I made sure I got their teachers tickets because they come and seen rehearsals and they come in and seen all that stuff. And Alex, dude, if Alex hears a song, Alex is singing it all the time. Man, we'll be in the car and all of a sudden I'll be like, is that Chopin? And he's just humming along, and it's like, it doesn't matter what it is. Where did you even pick that up? And all that stuff. I'm like, I just knew he was going to go into kindergarten singing, tis, 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 tis. And the teacher would be like, Mr. Snyder, we need to see you.
I don't have time, man. Just come see my show.
Come see the show. I'll pay for the ticket. You'll completely understand what he's talking about. When he says nice knockers, he doesn't understand what they're saying. He's just picking up from the show.
Oh, that's too good. That's too good.
But he just.
When you go into the opening night show, how are you feeling?
You're nervous. You're amped up. Mm-hmm. And it's so different than with acting, is because you have to just let go. Because there's nothing I can do now. It's kind of like when you're coaching, like when I coach in Little League or anything like that. When I'm acting, you're physically part of it. You can affect it now. Now you just have to sit back and try to relax and know that the people that you put in there to play the game are ready. And there's no doubt that these guys are ready.
Josh Landon, Gianna Landon, Sierra Delton, Ariana Harold.
Ariana Harold.
Who else?
And then you really, the three. Grady Taylor, and Janine Michael.
Oh yeah, all those people together. So good.
Better be talking shit.
We totally are.
Good.
Yeah.
Then I've done my job.
Talking about Grady Taylor, who just steals the show. He's just an amazing.
He's been with you for Death Trap and the show.
He was in both. He played.
Which this is your second directing job, just so everybody knows.
Yeah, I did some assistant directing at SCT, but then this is my first two.
What were those shows? So you assistant director? I remember
White Christmas.
Which I was in.
Fiddler on the Roof.
I was in.
Anything Goes.
Wasn't it?
Let's see what else with Jim Coleman, Young Frankenstein, and
imagine like
there's one other.
Not Annie Get Your Gun. Was it?
No, it wasn't Annie Get Your Gun.
That was too early.
That was too early. Then with Kevin Costello, I did. Oh, I know. Sound of Music.
That's right.
Sound of Music.
Yeah,
then with Kevin,
there's a lot going on with that show.
Yes.
A
Yeah.
lot of behind the scenes, just craziness.
Yeah, it was
like curtains to stop working.
Yes, it was.
We're gonna have cherry pickers, and people would applaud us when we get the curtain.
Exactly.
And we still sold out. I think we sold out most of that show.
Oh, almost that entire show.
Yeah.
So. And then with Kevin Costello, I did Mary Poppins. Mm-hmm. It Runs in the Family, and what was it? Vanya, Sonia, Mosh, and Spike. Right. So, and then Death Trap here last year, and Grady was in that, and actually he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for the Ellies.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
He was in that one, and so was Elizabeth Costello. She was nominated for that, and then the set designer for this show is Peter Foley, and he was Death Trap, and he was nominated for Best Set Design for that.
He's somebody. It sounds like that you can work pretty closely with as a director. I know there's a lot of directors in this area who, like for example, I know James Reed. He'll always have his stage manager be like Patsy. Mm-hmm. Peter is like that for you. Is there anybody else that would?
There's
like that for you?
Well, I always believe
who is your production team right now?
My team is My assistant director was Jenna Zapponi Lane. She was my stage manager for Death Trap.
Right.
I worked with her quite often. So then Jenny Key was my stage manager. The rest of my entire production team would be costume design, Kathy Dixon, she's just done an amazing job with these air hostess. And these air hostess costumes are just gorgeous. Go back to White Christmas. She did the dress that Lydia Kay wore playing the Rosemary Clooney. You done the You Done Me Wrong song. Well, she did the red dress too, but she also did the black You Done Me Wrong song dress too. And I don't know that there have been a million beautiful women on SCT stage, but I don't know that anybody has looked that good in any costume there. It was just perfect. What Lydia and what Kathy did with that dress was just truly amazing.
That brought like one of the best energies, I think.
It was just
the theater.
Well, I take a look at that and I'm trying to think. I think that was Greg. Was it Greg or Hugh that did the lights for that? No, I'm trying to remember.
I think it was Greg.
It was Greg that did the lights for that. That scene.
No, it was Hugh because Josh was in the show.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
There was that scene had. I just thought that was a perfect conglomeration. First you had Lydia and you had Sean Baker up there on the stage, just both amazing actors. And you had Kathy's costuming and the light. Though it wasn't Hugh for sure, because they had Sean sitting in the shadows. Where they did the lights, so you really saw him, but you could tell he was waiting backstage in the shadows for him to come on stage, and it just read so well. And it's, to me, one of the lasting images of SCT in my mind that I will always remember was the beauty of that scene. So when I knew that I needed this, Kathy instantaneously came to mind, because if that's your ideal, it's where you want to. In my book, that's where you want to go. I mean, I think to make a great production, you got to surround yourself with good people. Mm-hmm. That is the number one thing. You cannot be afraid to let other people have success.
Yeah.
You have to nurture your people so they can have success. You have success when they have success. It's that's what I get from sports. You have to be on the team. That is way more important. Death Trap, I was the director, and I washed me and Carolyn washed the dirty clothes, because we had bloody clothes every night. I'm not above washing the bloody clothes.
Oh.
I'm not. Yes, maybe I'm the director, but I'm not above any of those things either, because we only do this if all of us are together, and that is the only way these things happen.
Yeah, I remember just like when getting into theater, it was always like there was never a small role. I remember that was a big thing that Jim always said, was that there's never a small role. Just I don't think he ever had an end to that. It was just like there's never a small role. I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. I can make roles myself, and I think that's, as someone who's been in these shows for a while, it kind of has evolved into other things, into a professional career, which is what hopefully a lot of your team would be able to say for themselves out in the professional environments, I guess.
Well, one of the great things with this, we have Janine, Michael, Kylie, and Grady Taylor are just such amazingly experienced actors, but they're also two people that are very willing to share their craft with the younger people in the cast. Mm-hmm. So having those two really as a super solid core, because Barrett and Robert kind of drive this show. Boeing Boeing's interesting because we talk about, hey, it's about Bernard and his 3 air hostesses. But it's really Robert and Barrett who are the ones that just contain and handle all the chaos.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I had the epiphany that that Bernard, the fictional character in history he's Don Quixote.
Yeah.
Because he thinks if you ask Bernard, is this easy? Bernard would say, yes, this is very easy. It's all about the timetables. But in reality, and you ask Barrett, is this hard? She says, this is terribly hard because it is Barrett who is changing out the pictures, changing the meals, emptying the girls' drawers of their clothes and putting the other girls' clothes in there. Everything to make these women believe it's their house every 2 days. It's crazy. She's Poncho. She's letting her Bernard live in this imaginary world that he's in. And then the imaginary world comes crashing down, and really it's how Barrett and Robert kind of save stuff around for Bernard and how they help him through these jam. And yeah, so it's very, you know, it's not often that the guys that you say, oh, this is a story about a guy and his 3 girls, but it's really these other characters that are
really
just
like
the motor.
Really.
They're the motor behind the engine of this great show. So.
Gosh, I'm excited to see it whenever I get a chance to. It is 7 to 4. You probably want to get back up there.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks for talking with me. And
you.
it's always great talking to you.
Oh, I miss talking to you more.
Yeah. I gotta get around here more, I think.
And well, I still feel I'm the one who kept saying that stuff for FCT and saying you and pushing towards it, and then I feel so bad about the way you got treated there. It was wrong.
I mean, at the same time, I had so much going on at that time too.
Yeah.
It's not if my situation was different, I think I'd be able to handle it. I would have been able to handle it in a different way too. I just felt like I had to.
Yeah, you needed to. You need to do what you need to for you, bud.
Exactly.
Because there's lots of theater that is ahead of you in your life. There's a lot of this.
Whenever
people
I get back
and
to
this,
it, at least.
Well, there's all different aspects of it.
Yeah,
too.
that's the kind of the plan of attack behind this kind of stuff.
There is just sometimes I went through a period where I was doing all like sound design, and that was my thing at SCT for about almost 2 years. That's what I was doing there. That before I came more into the directing stuff, I left the stage. We needed someone to do sound. We lost Darren. Remember Darren moved, and it was only me, and I didn't hardly know what I was doing. Yeah. So I was up there in that booth for that year and a half, just about. I did a whole bunch of shows, operating and stuff like that. So
I was thinking about it on the way up here, to where like for 4 or 5 years I was so comfortable with just being in whatever the next show was. Mm-hmm. Like there was that season where the White Christmas year, where it'd be like Grease, and then I'm like, I'm gonna go home and take a rest, and you call me up, you're like, hey, we need you. We need you. Jim wants you there. I hope you remember that call.
Of course I do.
And I was like, my pants are off right now, man. I don't know. Like, I need one night where I just can have my pants off. And then I go to White Christmas, and then was after that. I don't think I did the show after that. I think Barefoot in the Park. Yeah. And then I went to the show James did. The Plant.
Little Shop
of Horrors, and then whatever that's. Yeah. So there's like a good time where I was just like so comfortable doing that. And then I moved to Modesto, Stanislaus area, and now I'm doing that thing with like radio shows and whatever. Mm-hmm. And now I was thinking when I was driving up, where really a lot of stuff that I do now is in the Modesto area. I just keep tabs on things in Stockton and come in here when I can. So I'm in a way putting myself out there and just trying to see more parts of the world, I guess.
If I hadn't of changed up in what I was doing and gone on from being in front of stage to being up in the booth for a while, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it takes growth, you know what I mean? And you can't do the same thing and grow.
No, not at all.
You know, it takes stretching different muscles to grow.
Exactly.
And
we're both growing pretty well, I think.
And producers pushing that thing that I talk to people about all the time, pushing that is how we
got to tell one story. So it was the producers, where it's the big reveal where they reveal the Springtime for Hitler projection. Yeah. So you and Bobby are back there, and you know it's
exactly.
They're back there, and they put the projector screen up as one of those overhead projectors, and they put it on, and Bobby's like, "Does it look good?" And James, or you put it on.
I put it on.
And you're like, "Bobby, does it look good?" And he goes, looks great. It looks great. But it turns out you guys are behind it. Everybody turns around and it's reversed. It's flipped inside out. And everyone's just like...
for a couple of seconds, and then we're looking at him, and now we realize, oh my gosh, we shouldn't be able to read that.
The punchline to it, though, was Michael Stratford. He turns to somebody and he goes, "Hey, look, it's in Yiddish." And everybody just fell down like that. And then they closed the curtains for intermission.
That was a great experience.
Yeah.
I learned so much.
Favorite show ever in my books.
And again, that was a pivotal show in the fact of me getting to hear.
That was the sound one?
No, that was the one to where it was like my first or second crew, and all of a sudden, Putsy like gave me a bunch of stuff because it was one of the first times I needed.
How stressful that show was. Now I think.
Remember, we had to move that in and out in 8 seconds, and remember, it was the four of us: me, you, Bobby, and Dom. And me and Bobby had to hide in those 2 little cubbies on stage. You remember that? We had like sitting there in those 2 little things.
I'm sweating from you bringing it back.
And then how big those pieces were. It was
like
one of the first times we needed a real assistant stage manager backstage to coordinate the big moves and say, okay, you guys wait for a second because you guys got to go and move so then this one could go in. Because that was kind of one of the big starts for doing those really big shows over there underneath Jim.
Yeah.
Producers.
And that made room for Sweeney Todd to come in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By pulling off producers, I think is what gave the confidence.
I think Sweeney Todd changed everything too.
Oh, I agree.
Every way.
I agree. But I believe that producers was a stepping stone for us to get to Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
Big time.
Now that you bring into perspective.
Because the size of those sets, normally we're just used to 2 deck managers. But you needed somebody to say, okay, you guys go first or you guys go. That type of thing. And then, it really changed. And being able to do that allowed us to do the shows like Hairspray, with that train, where you needed just a little bit more technical back there.
All right, I think that's good for tonight. Good seeing you. I'm going to go.
Take care of that family, okay?
Yeah, totally.
Oh.